Over the last few years, the narrative has been Scottish players have been going over to apply their trade in Italy, but that has now changed. Not only are Scottish players in Italy, not only are they in Serie, but they're now being crowned champions of Italy. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. Got to give a shout out to Napoli players Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour, because they have achieved what not many Scottish players achieved. They have achieved league titles in a top league, in Serie A, as part of Napoli. Both players moving to Napoli, big moves for them both. Billy Gilmour didn't really work out for him in the Premier League. It should have, but for one reason or another, whether it be at Chelsea or whether it be at Brighton, he just was never really favoured. He'd always get a run in the team and then get taken out. And Scott McTominay, a guy that was always made the fall guy at United, always blamed for United's losses, always blamed for United's downfall. Mark Goldbridge, one of the biggest muppets on YouTube. Scooby-Doo, always making fun of McTominay, blaming him for United being shite, and ever since McTominay left United, as shite as United were, they've got 10 times worse. McTominay goes to Napoli, he takes his goals with him, and Napoli are now the champions of Italy, finishing with 82 points, 1 point ahead of Inter Milan, Champions League finalists Inter Milan. And it's a great achievement for Napoli, and it's a great achievement for the Scottish boys McTominay and Billy Gilmour. Also, need to give a big shout out to none other than Lewis Ferguson. He had a pretty good season, helping captaining his Bologna team to 9th in the league, a top half finish, 62 points, only a few points away for qualifying for Europe, but more importantly, he won the Serie A Cup. He won the Italian Cup, whatever it's called, the Italia Coppa. So he's a major cup winner in Italy. So what a season for McTominay, Gilmour and Lewis Ferguson, all getting some form of trophies, medals in Italy, playing for big clubs in Italy. And it just goes to show you that Scotland does have great players. We do have a great midfield. There's 3 midfield players that we've got in the Scotland setup, and we haven't even talked about John McGinn, who had a great season captaining Aston Villa, helping them into the Champions League quarter-finals, and in all honesty, they were robbed. Should have qualified for the Champions League again. Had a great goal, well, not a great goal, but had a legitimate goal disallowed against Manchester United. So, I don't want to hear the narrative that Scotland don't have the players, or when we turn up to these competitions, the Euros, or when we fail to qualify for the World Cup, people will make excuses. Well, we're a nation of only 5.8 million. I'm sick of hearing that bullshit. We've got quality players, we've got world-class players, and this proves it. We've got players playing at the top level and winning top trophies. So shout out to McTominay and shout out to Billy Gilmour. We'll cover Billy Gilmour first, because he played less of a part, and I don't want to diminish him or anything like that, but he wasn't as crucial to Napoli as McTominay was, and I think that's definitely fair to say. But he made 26 appearances, didn't score, had 1 assist, but Gilmour's not in there to score goals. He's a defensive midfielder. He's there to control games, and he made 26 appearances, so can't really complain. It's a good return there. He played his part. Played in about 70% of the matches. So, he definitely did his job. He played a role in helping Napoli get over the line and become champions in the Coppa Italia. He made 2 appearances in that. He started both games and played 100% and, 100 minutes in there as well. So, he did all right. And even the starting 11, he started over a third of the matches in Serie A. So the 26 appearances he made, about 9 of them would have been starts. So, that's pretty good for Billy Gilmour. But look at Scott McTominay here. 34 appearances in Serie A. So played all but 2 of the matches. 12 goals, 6 assists. Absolutely phenomenal. 92% he started in the 11. So, he was a he was a permanent fixture in that Napoli starting 11. He played 91% of the available minutes. So, it's not like he was getting subbed off early or whatnot. Pretty much he was playing almost as much as he possibly could for Napoli. And with the 12 goals and the 6 assists, that gives him 18 goal contributions. And he was responsible for 32% of Napoli's goals. So, almost a third. Scott McTominay was involved in. You look at all the Napoli goals, and McTominay was responsible. He was involved in a third of them, and that's phenomenal. That just goes to show you how good McTominay's been. And we've seen it over the last few seasons when he was having that run in Scotland where he was just scoring goals for us for fun almost, and he was like our biggest threat up front. And you're thinking, what, with the lack of options, the lack of strikers that we have, maybe McTominay should be playing up front for Scotland. But it's a phenomenal achievement for Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour, and like I said, Lewis Ferguson as well, winning the cup with Bologna. So just wanted to point that out there, that we have Serie A winners, we have Coppa Italia winners in Italy right now, doing Scotland proud, and that's got to give us momentum, and it's got to give us hope and belief going into these World Cup qualifiers that we can do something. I don't want to hear about it, how we're a small nation or how we've got a diddy league or whatnot. We are a country and we've got world-class players. I genuinely believe that in the midfield. And, I look at McTominay and I look at Lewis Ferguson, and these are players that we wouldn't be surprised if they actually move on and go to even bigger clubs. You look at John McGinn over the years, he's always been rumoured for big moves away, and he stayed at Aston Villa, who, are a big club in England. You look at our midfield, those four names alone, McTominay, Gilmour, McGinn, Ferguson, that's up there. Those four are up there with some of the best teams in the world at an international level. That you can't knock those four players. Those four players, that must put us, if you look at like the European nations, that puts us in the top 10. 100%. Is there 10 European nations with four players better than that in their midfield? I don't think so. So we need to start qualifying for more tournaments. It's been too long since we made a World Cup. 1998 to be exact, in France. And I think it's time that we right those wrongs. And I think we could do it in this upcoming World Cup qualification campaign. And if we've got McTominay and we've got Lewis Ferguson and the likes, if they're on form, then why can't we? If we can just get a striker, if we can get a striker to start banging in goals, then I don't see why we can't do it. Because, like I said, our midfield is phenomenal, and it's great to have winners in our midfield as well. And no disrespect to like a Callum McGregor, but it's not quite the same thing. Callum McGregor winning a league with Celtic, it's not quite as impressive as Scott McTominay going to Napoli and winning Serie A. So it's actually great to have winners in there. I get it, Andy Robertson, he's a winner, but this just feels different. This feels like we've got emerging winners that are actually contributing to these teams and playing large parts in changing Scottish football for the better. So I'm excited to see it, and hopefully we get more of it. Hopefully we get more players moving to Italy, and the more Scottish players we have playing in the bigger leagues, the better. So yeah, no complaints, guys. Napoli, your Serie A champions, and Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour contributing a lot to it. So yeah, big shout out to them, guys. Let us know your thoughts down below. Catch you in the next one. And McTominay and Gilmour going to be vital for us in the hopes of qualifying for a World Cup. Peace.